Hi, I'm Davon Freeman with Discover Umes. Today, we're here to hear Ms. Crosland talk about her research topic, the history of colorism, here on Discover Umes. But before you start, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Your first question is, why did you choose this research topic?
I think I chose this actual research topic is because I kind of love African American history. So I feel that there always has been some type of controversy between lighter skinned African Americans and darker skinned African Americans. So I just wanted to, do a little bit more research, find out what it actually was. So.
Okay. Well, the second question, what was your biggest obstacle you faced while doing your research?
I think my biggest obstacle was just sticking with one thing or try to narrow down my topic of what I actually wanted to present. And then when it came to presenting, I had to try to figure out how I actually wanted to present the information. So.
Last question before we let you go.
Okay.
What advice would you give to your peers who are about to start their research projects?
For people that are getting ready to start their research projects, I would just say start in advance, take your time, make sure the information or the topic that you start is something that you love, because you will spend so much time on it that you'll probably get sick of it. So just make sure that the topic is something that you love.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. As Dr. Bear Gaines introduced me, I'm a history major writing my thesis on colorism. My first presentation, I know it says is lighter better, the history of colorism, but I kind of changed some things after I made the flyer, so just bear with me. So I'll start off by defining colorism, and colorism is a form of discrimination that occurs within a race, within one race, I should say. This form of discrimination can be based on your skin color, your hair texture, or your facial features. While researching for colorism, it was kind of difficult finding factual evidence to support my my argument because colorism is surrounded by a lot of myths and legends. So to support my argument that lighter skin is favored over darker skin, I use the media, and particularly magazines. I feel like the media, they kind of have somewhat of an influence over us of what we buy, what we purchase, the things we believe. And in the same case, I feel that the media kind of emphasizes that lighter is favored over darker skin. So with all that being said, my PowerPoint presentation will start with lighter skin and straighter hair being favored over darker skin, kinky, natural hair. With the help of Jet and Ebony magazines from the 1950s and 1960s, and showing the people that are on the cover of these magazines. Okay, but first I just want to give you some historical context of, I guess, just how African Americans are portrayed in the media. All of these, or most of these, are from movies. We have the male being portrayed as either an Uncle Tom character or a coon. We have Stepin Fetchit, who is always portrayed as the coon character. He's usually seen as foolish or being made fun of or insulted. And he's usually seen as either tall, lanky, his clothes are too big, and usually referred to as dumb. We have the Uncle Tom character, which is Bill Bojangles Robinson, and he's usually, or he's better known as being the, I guess, the right-hand man for Shirley Temple. And he's usually seen, or the Uncle Tom character is usually supposed to be like submissive and yes sir, no sir, and very, I guess, faithful to his employer. And over here we have a picture of Pickaninny children, and Pickaninny children were just supposedly, I guess, seen as not wanted or neglected children. Their hair is messed up. They steal because they don't, their black parents don't feed them, stuff like that. On the female side of it, we have the Mammy character, Usually Hattie McDaniel and Louise Beavers played the Mammy character, which was a heavy-set woman, usually seen smiling, large eyes, large lips, large face, large body. And she's usually seen as very undesirable. The Mammy, the Coon, and the Uncle Tom caricatures were mostly images that are seen that were considered undesirable because they had Afrocentric features. And the Afrocentric features include the afro or the kinky hair, natural hair, brown eyes, a broad nose, and full lips. Where on the other hand, there are Eurocentric features, which are the straight hair, the blue, green, hazel, gray eyes, the thin nose, and thin lips. I decided to use Jet and Ebony magazine because I feel like we all are familiar with these magazines. We've read them, picked them up, saw them on the newsstands. And I felt that Jet and Ebony had a deeper history. I could have went with Essence, but they only started in the 1980s, I believe, or late 70s, early 80s. So it wasn't enough evidence for me to, support my argument. Jet was founded by a man named John H. Johnson in 1951 and was published weekly, and it still is published weekly. Jet was known as the weekly news magazine and contained information about activism, and it kind of had information about the civil rights movement, what went on during that time. Jet magazine, it kept readers aware of what was going on in their communities. When Jet first came out, it had articles that taught you how to vote or gave you instructions on how to vote or where you should vote, and also how to apply for scholarships. And I'll just go through some of the women that are on the screen. Our first female, all of these are, of course, are of lighter skin. They have straight hair. Our first woman is Rose Hardaway. She's not too famous. I think she was just famous for being a Harlem dancer, a dancer in Harlem at the time, and she did appear on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1952. The next female we have is Marva Lewis, who is the ex-wife of the heavyweight champion Joe Louis. The next female we have is Doretha Tools, and you can see there she kind of epitomizes the lighter Eurocentric features because she does have blonde hair, and I doubt that that's her natural color. She was the first successful black model in Paris. So our first African-American darker-skinned female with an afro appeared in November the 10th, 1966, excuse me. And her claim to fame was she was just a model that was in the Ebony Fashion Fair at the time. It's significant because I believe, well, of course, she is the first African-American with the afro that is posted on the cover. 2 years later, and I know I put the dates here because to show the gap. So in between these two covers, there are light-skinned females on the cover as well, females and males, I should say. So March the 28th, 1968, we have Miriam Makeba. She is a South African singer and a civil rights activist, and she was the first artist to popularize the African songs. The next female we have is Abby Lincoln. You can still see the difference between the times. I think it's about like 5 months. She was a jazz vocalist, a songwriter, and an actress. Down here we have Carol Jones. I think this issue was just about secretaries in the White House. So she did, even though she had an afro, she did have the opportunity to work in the White House. Ebony magazine was founded by John H. Johnson, the same man. And it was first published in 1945. Ebony celebrated African-American life and culture by depicting black achievements. Ebony also discussed the obstacles of African Americans and encouraged them to do better for themselves. So these pictures, these are just regular pictures of of lighter skinned African American women. It starts, well, the source that I had did not have, you know, covers from 1945, so I had to start with 1962, and it shows that, again, these are lighter skinned women. And then in 1973, they decided to put a female with an afro on the cover. And of course, down at the bottom, they have females from the blaxploitation period, which was the 70s. And then they have the homecoming queens, where they do have 3 females who do have an afro. So I stated before that colorism wasn't just about skin color. It kind of involved the discrimination of hair texture and facial features. So with seeing all these covers, a lot of African Americans weren't happy, or they felt that they had to live up to what these covers, well, showed. So with that being said, they changed their appearances by using cosmetics and what was out at the time. These are some products that were shown in magazines, and also people use home remedies to kind of get that lighter is better look. First, we have Madam C.J. Walker, who was very famous at this time. In the early 20th century, she created the Walker system, which was a way for African American women to straighten their hair so they can achieve that long, silky, smoother look. In the middle, there is an ad for Natanola bleaching cream. The Natanola bleaching cream, I thought it was interesting because the caption at the bottom said, "Just one jar will make your complexion lighter, brighter, clearer, and lovelier." So I thought that was kind of saying, well, you know, you have to be lighter and brighter to be beautiful, because of course the female on the ad is pretty. And then we have Dr. Fred Palmer's skin whitener, which was in competition, with the Natanola. And again, lighter, clearer skin was what was looked at. And that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, well, hopefully I look forward to when you come back and answer those.
Yes.
What's your next topic, do you know? Your next argument about this topic.
I don't know particularly the argument, but I think I'm going to do colorism internationally, so kind of based in like Brazil and